Okay, we're here with Mark Lewis.
What's
Mark,
up?
how
Can
are
you
you?
hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. Thank you
Oh,
for
good.
coming on here.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me. This is cool.
Yeah. So if you don't know Mark Lewis, because he, like myself, is a man behind the scenes usually, he's probably produced a lot of metal records in your collection. Cannibal Corpse, Black Dahlia Murder, Whitechapel. Recently did that new Havoc record. That's very awesome. Tons of stuff, years of stuff, making metal records long before me, and hopefully we both continue to kill it. But you're definitely one of my favorite producers, and I really love your records. And and thank you for coming on here. I'm excited to
Dude,
chat.
you're awesome. Thanks for that. And you too, man. I love that all of us are friends and do different things and you know can talk to each other and have that support, that we have. And it's weird, because I mean you and I are the same age and we're not the new kids on the block anymore. It was a long fight to get here as adults, it feels like, but now here we are as veterans, I guess,
I'd say
doing
man babies, not really. I don't know
yeah,
about it.
man babies. Now we're doing adult things and learning
Yeah,
how to be grown-ups.
yeah. So
You
talk
know?
to me about what are you up to now producing? Like, were you affected by the pandemic? Did you have to cancel stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got hit hard actually. I mean, I'm busy as shit every day, but if this had been 2019 when this happened, I would have been great because I had 3 records in the spring and they're all American bands, but this year it was 3 international bands. I had 2 Australians and a Canadian, and they're all postponed, and I'm doing things remotely and checking sessions. And for the first time I'm editing guitars after they've been recorded, which is something I don't do. Like, I'm doing the new Nea Obliviscaris record, and so we did the drums here in Nashville, and I was supposed to go to Australia for 6 weeks and do them and another band. And now it's like we're doing things that we can remotely, and then just learning new ways to work. But it's working, and it's I didn't produce the last one, I just mixed, and it's already coming out much better even with me just involved remotely. It's not what we wanted, but it's still good.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I talked to Kurt, and we've going to talk to a few more producers too, but everyone's adapting to this like remote client stuff now. And I actually just canceled records and moved them to the fall to just work on construction stuff now. So I kind of lucked out, but I know everyone's like in a bit of a scramble. But I'm glad you're able to still keep some kind of schedule and work with the bands and not slow it down. And I think it's important now more than ever that everybody still tries to continue to make music and put out records and stuff.
Oh, they gotta people gotta use this time to write. And I know that it's you can't always be inspired, but I think it's an inspiring time. And it's just, I'm hoping that we can all do what we can in the fall to, because it's like I still have records in the fall that were booked last year, and now I have bands that I canceled in the spring that want to get in the fall, and it's like, all right, man, this is going to get crazy, but we'll make it work. And that's part of our job, is the logistics of the scheduling and making sure we get these people what they need, on time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so we could talk about recording stuff all day, but I do want to get into like a little bit of your story, because as a person who's lived in a few places in the South in America, from DC to Florida for a while and over to Nashville, I mean, you've experienced some pretty wild firsthand stuff. And I know, I mean, you even told me the principal of your high school was like a Sons of Confederacy guy. And,
he was, man. Like, I mean, and people say, oh, you're from Maryland, you're a Yankee. And it's like, it's maybe if you're from Baltimore, yeah, like, but the Southern Maryland is like this weird mix of South and North, and where people start to get accents, and there's like a big Confederate presence and things that kind of don't make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying I'm the face of diversity by any stretch. I mean, I'm a middle class white kid, but my high school was largely black, and we had a principal that would walk around the county fair in Confederate uniform. And it was always something where you're just like, what the fuck? And it wasn't an outrage then. This was the 90s, So, I mean, I didn't feel a ton of racism, I guess, per se, because of DC being so diverse, but it was, there's times it was tense, but to me, it's a culture thing, and it's people not understanding each other, and that's, when you're young, it. I don't know, man. It was never, to me, a huge issue, but like I said, I'm not the face of diversity, so it's hard for me to get in and say that I know what it feels like, to be those people,
Yeah, I think when you experience that as a kid, and you're in a high school and this guy's walking around dressed up with all these Confederate flags on, with like a large black population of students, that it's like it starts to normalize things for white kids to be like, oh, it's fine. And then later in life, when issues really come to light and surface about, maybe you didn't look into what that flag meant when you were a kid, but now it's like, now that you know what that kind of represented and what that stands for, it's like, to have this embedded normalization of these like racist things as a child, I think it's created a lot of problems today. This is why I was really interested in this, because it's like, if a 13-year-old sees his principal, his leader in school, wearing shit like that, and then 10 years later in life, somebody's complaining about the Confederate flag, how it stands for, a symbol of slavery and it needs to go away. It's harder for him to connect those dots. And it's like, I don't know, to me, it's this, we talked a lot about these systemic issues and how, racism's been embedded in all parts of our society for so long that it's just hard to undo the minds of people who can't wrap their heads around it. I mean, the Confederate flag argument, which shouldn't even be an argument, it's literally a demographic of people that went to war with America because they wanted to own slaves.
Right.
They got their and that's gone. And it was a bad few years for them. And now people fly that flag as some sort of false heritage and some kind of pride thing in the South.
Or it becomes taunting, and I guess, I didn't, I've definitely been flippant about it, until things started to heat up. And then you start to understand that, it's not like, you and I being two white guys, we have to listen to these people. We have to listen to what they've been through, because we don't know what that's like. And we, dude, yesterday I was walking, there's a marina by my house, and I walk down there a lot, and there's no sidewalk on the road there. And I know it's not illegal to walk on the side of the road, but I'm walking down the side of the road, and I had a cop pass me and wave at me. And I was like, man, I wonder if it would have been the same if I had been a black guy. Maybe he would have stopped and asked me what I was doing, or, things like that. And because I don't know, I haven't experienced that, and that's the thing. We have to listen to these people, and we have to get out of our own way. We have to, anger and empathy on our part has to kind of go away. And I know it's weird to say empathy, but I feel like empathy gets in people's way because you find a way to empathize with who you identify with. And that's where the tribalism comes in and starts to separate people. And I don't know, it's a weird thing. I notice it a lot with young white girls that it's they feel like it's their duty. And I love that. That's cool. Be the activist or whatever, but they're so angry about something they've never experienced, and they're not listening to the black community or just listening at all. And they're like, if you don't feel this way, then get the fuck away from me and defriend me on social media and things like that. And it's like, no, listen to conservatives and talk to them and say, you'll learn from each other. I have a lot of conservatives in my family, and they know what I do for a living, and make records about Satan and whatever. And it's never been, they didn't accept me, and I see young people getting so angry and just telling people to fuck off. And it's that's the last thing you should do.
It does polarize the bases, and we've definitely, a lot of this event has been about communication and, how we could listen and educate ourselves and how we can communicate with people to kind of further this whole conversation without it becoming overly toxic or just dividing people more, pushing people further away from your ideas. And a lot of what you're saying kind of falls into that, this like uninformed activism that's happening right now. The intention is good, but the approach to it, you know, it like we had talked about it earlier, but it can poke holes in the narrative, and in a way it can take away from the Black Lives Matter movement, because it's like, hey, if you can't really speak on this, if you haven't experienced it, if you're not a part of the Black culture, if you didn't, you know, and you didn't do the work or the self-educate and listen and have the correct perspective, and you're just out there like scaring people away, you know, it can do damage. And in places like the South, I mean, it's even more difficult because you have these long-standing embedded racism, you know, racist pieces of your culture. It's harder to undo. You know, I'm going to talk to Randy's coming on later, who I work with, who's from New Orleans, and we're going to talk about how difficult it is to undo the mindset, you know, of people from the South. And you know, in Florida, I mean, I probably saw, you know, I was in Florida for a few weeks this year, and I saw more Confederate flags than I ever have in my life, you know, in one trip down there. I'm like, I'm not exposed to that up here, but you know, Black people have to see that every day in Florida. And it's like, you know, you want to talk to these people, you want to be, you know, you want to talk to the people who are flying these flags, and you want to kind of further this conversation, but you can't just go scream at them because they don't fucking listen to you. They won't want to listen to you, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's the problem. And like, I've stepped away from talking about this stuff on the internet, and I've even stepped away from the cable news networks, because man, it's so toxic, and it's so, you know, you have to really listen to the people that are there. You can't listen to reporters, because I don't believe that it's honest at this point. And I believe that a lot of, you know, the conservatives are, you know, over at Fox News are just angering white people, and then the Democrats are making Black people their puppet. And it's like, that's not, and I'm not trying to be, you know, do this woke thing, because I'm not. Like, I don't know enough about this to say I have the answers, but like, I had to step away from it when Trump got elected, because it was so toxic, you know. And then of course we all have those friends that spend their whole fucking day on social media bitching about Trump or bitching about whatever. And it's like, man, I see him arguing, and I'm a super opinionated guy. People know that. Like, I am an asshole on the internet, but it's about recording and music, and you know, I try to be lighthearted, you know, because I don't want to get into arguments with people that are going to change how we interact forever. I want to talk to people and learn things and not be angry all the time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, talking, communicating and listening, and, you know, everything we've just discussed. I mean, I think your approach quietly to understand what's happening and help people that need it is a very good approach, you know, and I appreciate that you're, you know, able to understand that and not just be the guy in the soapbox, you know, for no reason. So, yeah, right. I mean, I mean, I hope what do we do about Florida, Mark? What's your
Florida?
Well, a lot of time there. How do you fix Florida real quick?
You know, I lived in Orlando, and that's pretty freaking diverse. I mean, and I was living downtown, and it's, you know, it's super diverse, and it's, you know, a huge gay community and huge, you know, Latin community and everything like that. So for me, that, like, it's not even Florida as much as the South, you know. And even, dude, I've seen it in Boston, dude. Like, Boston is a rough town. They can be racist as fuck up there. And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I mean, like, it's different in different places, you know. And I think that people have to start listening to each other and stop being like angry, and you have to stop allowing the extremists to rule parties and put people into groups. And because that's, you know, if we're not individuals and we don't have a voice, and we get put into these groups and we're told how to feel, and that's when things become dangerous with the far right, with religion. We know what they're capable of in terms of, you know, pro-life arguments and telling women what they can do with their bodies and things like that, I think is totally wrong. And that is born out of extreme empathy and identifying with a group of people that makes you feel accepted, but not being yourself, I guess. And the same can go with the far left, because they are starting, I see them starting to get really angry too. And that's a new thing. And when you start getting these tribes of people that are being ruled by one ideology, you have constant war, and people aren't thinking for themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked about infighting a little bit before, and how, that's not furthering like actual progress anymore, just aligning yourself with one side or the other blindly, and having to agree with everything down the line is just not the way our country works anymore. I mean, you just see it with failures in Congress and stuff. I mean, we could talk about this all day, but I do have to keep the day rolling. But right. I want to thank you for coming on here and offering some insight. I know you're normally a reserved person speaking on these issues, but being a part of this event and showing your support, it's important for me to get people from the metal community to, get a little more proactive. And I love that you were just immediately down to do this. So,
I was honored to be a part of it. And you're great, with your organizational skills and your big picture thinking and things like that. So, dude, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
So sweet. So, Mark's giving away actual mastering service, which is very cool. If you're a band, he'll master 3 songs for you for free, which is a nice chunk of change. He's pretty good at it. He's very good at it. You should give it a shot. And you get a copy of his ToneHub Core. You get the ToneHub Core plugin and the Mark Lewis pack, which is, I would say, my favorite, amp emulator software that exists in the world. And a whole bunch of Mark's awesome guitar tones are in that. So a very cool thing. If you're in a band, if you're writing or recording, it's pretty useful for everything. Soundrink.live. $10 charitable donation automatically enters you into our giveaway raffle. And write a comment, leave a note of what you want in your donation, and if we pick you, you win it. Mark Lewis, thank you very much, man. I appreciate your time. We'll talk soon, dude.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, I'm gonna take 1 minute here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get Taj Ramar. So I will be right back.